there's times in life, right? Life is about having experiences and being able to craft a story, tell your story, right? As an artist, right? We have to have a life, we have to live a life, right? And of course, there's people who are like in their 19, young people, right? Young people who have maybe like all kinds of different things in their lives, experiences that, like not most of us aren't in the NBA or a professional athlete where we get to travel all over the world through that as a young person, right? Like that's sort of like, do you ever notice like how those people, you're like, wow, the life that they live, like a Kobe Bryant or something like that, like to be in the NBA at like a high school age, right? And then by the time he's retiring, and it's like, it's like he's only 40 or something, and it's like that, 38 or 40. And it's like, that was for me, that like his thing, just bringing this up because it throws me there, but it was like the tragedy for me about, because I was a fan of his, it's like, it's the fact that he had he was ready to do a whole new life. And it was almost like being, when we were kids, like if you ever lost anybody when you were young at your age, right? I had lost a few friends who, different things, car accidents or plane crashes and just, abstract things like this or sicknesses. And it's just like young and you're like too young, right? And you feel like they were just getting in their life, right? And to me, he was like having that rebirth. You know what I mean? But what I'm you also mean by this is that like people like that, they have had a life, all kinds of things in their life, right? And so for us as artists, it's like most of us have a regular life, like a normal life and a basic life, and it's something like and we have to have experiences, right? And the thing is that for me, it's like people want to stay, that they think that they should just stay in their studios and just kind of like mull over a blank canvas and not have any distractions. Well, I think that's the myth, because people see that, but what they don't realize is that person went for a walk. They had a journey. They had some trauma. They are, having all kinds of whatevers in their life. They've had experiences, right? And so then you're sitting in the quiet. Because for me, it's like, these days I really want to sort of live further out, but not necessarily in America the way it is right now. Like, but like I've been thinking about moving abroad, right? And so for me, it's like, oh, well, to be that isolated, well, I kind of want that now because of where my life is now, because of all the, like, I've had experiences, I've had life. So yes, I can go to a room in a quiet space, and then I can have that I can get into that, right?
See, that's interesting. I don't feel that way at all. I don't feel like I can afford the
afford. Yeah,
the invisibility of being somewhere very rural, but maybe that's because I grew up there. And
and I can totally understand, because I'm a city guy, and and it's like I don't want to live in the suburbs. I'm a suburb kid, I was raised in the suburbs. And and to me, it's like I don't want to live in the suburbs. That's like, this is as suburb as I can live right now. And it's like I would prefer to have either, I like the city, or I would be in, like, have more space around me. Like, but I don't want to be next. I don't want to be so far away from the airport. And there's certain things.
Right? It's interesting.
There's
So
things.
would you be like if you weren't an artist, do you think you would be a writer? Like what would you be doing now?
Okay. So about that. Oh, so let me just finish this part about that. Is that I have had to like change my life and work I had to work in the professional world at some point. Like when I was in my like late 20s, I was working in nonprofits in art, and then I was
like a job. That's what you mean by professional world.
Yeah, job. Really, like I've always been a working student. I never had that kind of luxury to like be like, I'm just going to study. This is late in my life now that I'm even living this, let's say, artist life now. It's like I've had to do the // the famous // well, it's like, when I was teaching, and I even got into the board of ed with New York, and I was an art teacher, and then 9/11 happens, and then it was like, oh, hiring freeze. And so I was working, with my my partner as you know, she had a store and she was a designer, and then she sold her business, and then she went to manage a store, and I would work in her store in the summers. And it was like, for me, I was all about making money, and then I got the opportunity to get recruited by Prada, and it was like teaching, this kind of retail. This isn't like Kmart, this isn't Walmart. This is like,
Yes.
this is the top of the notch situation. And I seen people when I was doing that with her, I met a lot of older people. Like I'm in my late, late 20s, early 30s, kind of thing. And these people are in their 40s and 50s, and they're buying houses, they're doing real estate situations, they're opening bars, they're opening grocery stores. I mean, these are people just like you and I, creatives, and we're in this sort of situation where we have to do something. And this is like, I used to always say, this is like digging ditches. As long as I can, whatever I can do without having to take away from my, let's say, creative spirit and not make me feel like dead, which eventually did, but it was a whole other story point. But that was like, I had to like see where that happened. And it was like a light for me. And then it allowed me a lot of things as an artist to work when I was working in the professional world, you know what I'm saying? And making 6-figure kind of money. And it's like, oh, as an artist now, I don't have to sell my work. I don't have to think about like trying to like, I can just be my art, and I was just doing my work, right?
Yeah.
But what happened, and what I'm trying to get to, is that I've had this life, right, at a certain point, and I had to learn sometimes where I had to turn paint off because I had to live or do things, get married, or like someone passes or something happens in my life. And these things happen. And this is what I tell my students, is like, I've had to learn how to like literally change change and extend the meaning of paint into patience. So I literally extend the word, like to like almost like take this pause. But what you do like that is that you do write, you do live life, you do have emotions and experiences and love and loss or whatever you're going through in life. And sometimes it's like, for me, what I've done when I've had those points in my life, like I don't know how long I necessarily quit, if I ever really truly quit. Because again, that's what I'm saying. I had a video camera, or I was doing some editing, or I was I was writing notes, just, you know what I mean? And then it's kind of like, it's still the process. And then I came back to it and I was like, oh, I'm better. I'm better now. I feel like I got more things now to do in this. And I feel like the pause did not hurt my practice in a way that my hand felt like out of touch with the work. You know what I mean? And it's sort of like, I've had to pick up the paces. I mean, this sort of hasn't happened to me for a long time. I haven't had like, thankfully, any kind of like block or angst or anything in my life for a long time. But I've had those trials and I've had that situation. But, for me, it's like I've extended the word, the idea of paint into patience. And then when I'm ready to come back, it's like I have all this new information.